Your warm-up really doesn't have to be complicated. It could be the most simple thing ever. I like to do just some high knees, warm up my ankles, and then I also just like to do jumping jacks. Really all we're looking for is that you're getting your heart rate up so that your muscles are getting more oxygen and blood, and therefore you are more warmed up to start stretching. So let's get to it. First thing I like to do is actually massage my jaw. I hold lots of tension in my jaw all the time, and I just need a release. And so I like to first massage and make sure I'm conscious of it. Then I like to stretch my neck. Now with the neck, I start forward and back, and I hold at each peak position for about 5 seconds. We each have our own needs, and so if you need to hold longer, then hold longer. And then I like to do side to side, imagining that my nose is pressing as far back to that back wall as I can. And that really helps twist that spine to help get a further stretch in your neck. Then I like to move on to ear to shoulder. And on this one, you're imagining your opposite shoulder pressing down. You're not trying to get your shoulders to your ears. Instead, you're imagining getting your ear to your shoulder without moving that. Also imagine that you're growing tall in your neck and then arching over. Then I like to do weighted side stretches. So it's just like what we just did, except now you're using the weight of your arm. Make sure you're not pulling too much because you might injure yourself, but really all you're doing is pushing down that opposite shoulder and then pulling the side of the head to the opposite side. Then I like to move on to my triceps. Now on this, you're going to touch the same arm to that same scapula and then push your elbow back and then pull it inwards, and you should feel a stretch within that tricep, which is the back side of your arm. Make sure you're doing this on both sides. That way we are getting good at both sides. Then I like to move on to my shoulders, where I do cat stretch. Now cat stretch is where your hips are raised up to the air on your knees, and then you're reaching forward with your hands, imagining that your armpits are going towards the ground. Now if this is too easy for you and you're already getting your armpits to the ground, you can move on to downward dog with bent knees. That way you're not straining your hamstrings too much and you can strictly focus on your shoulders opening. But if you do like it more of a challenge, then straighten those legs, lift those hips up, and open those shoulders. Then I like to move on to stretching that shoulder girdle and the scapula. So I move one arm across the body, grab it with the opposite arm, and imagine my shoulders just pressing down. If you really focus on pressing your shoulders down, you will feel this stretch so much better. Then I set my hand on the wall and I walk in towards the wall and move my upper body away from my arm. That way I'm really stretching out that pectoral/chest and your bicep. Then make sure you are also again doing it on both sides. That way you're getting good at both sides and are able to perform better in a wide range of things. After that, I move on to stretching my wrists. I start with my hands facing forward on the ground and I'm on my knees, rocking forward and backwards. When my hands are forwards, I focus on that rock forwards. That way I'm exaggerating that angle. Then when my hands are turned backwards, I'm focusing on the rock backwards because that is when I am exaggerating that angle again. Then I like to turn my hands face inwards and I actually draw circles with my body. That way I'm stretching all different sides of this position. I make sure I'm also going the other direction. So I go one direction a few times and the other direction a few times. Then you're going to turn your hands outwards and do the same thing, rocking in a circle one direction and then in a circle the other direction. Then I also like to stretch my fingers by doing palm raises. You're just keeping your fingers on the ground and lifting your palms up a few times. Then I like to stretch out my lower back by laying flat on my back and lifting one knee up and grabbing it with the opposite arm and pulling it towards the ground. Now what you're trying to focus on here is mainly just keeping your shoulders on the ground as you do this. So you bring one knee up, grab it with the opposite arm, pull it towards the ground, but enough where you are not lifting your shoulders off of the ground. Then I like to move on to seal stretch, where my elbows are on the ground, hands out in front of me, and then I just straighten my arms. Notice that my hands are a little far away from my body. If you're not feeling a stretch there, then you can pull your hands in closer and closer, but your goal the entire time is just to keep those hips on the ground and growing tall in your shoulders, just elongating that back and that arch. Then I like to move on to cat and dog, where dog, I am lifting my tail up to the sky and my head up, and then in cat, I lower my tail down towards the ground and my head down. So I like to think of it like a scaredy cat, where the cat raises its chest up, and then a dog just has a fat little dog sticking its belly out. That's how I like to imagine it. So just playing with that. Next, we're going to stretch our hip flexors and our glutes. So here I'm in a kneeling lunge, and all I'm doing is tucking my tail in. So just place one foot forward, and rather than sticking your bum out, all you're gonna do is tilt your hips forward and elongate those hip flexors and those quads. Super easy movement, but it really does stretch that area. Then you're gonna lay down on your back, place one foot on your opposite knee, and push that one knee away from you and lift the other leg off of the ground. And you're just gonna hold. If you're not feeling the stretch, then you can also pull your knee in closer to your body with your arms. This should really stretch out your glutes. So again, place one foot on the opposite knee, push that knee away from your body and the other leg up towards your body. And just relax, breathe, and lay down. Next, you're going to do knee bridges, where your hands are on your hips. You're thinking about growing tall in your spine all the way through your head and then arching it back. Thinking about squeezing your bum and pressing your hips forward. Then you're going to go side to side. So you'll do one side growing tall, place one hand on that same foot, and then you'll come back up once you've held it for a while and switch. So growing tall like a tree, leaning your hips forward and then taking it back. Your whole goal here is not to crunch your spine, but instead to lengthen it. Then here, you're going to place your knee by the wall and shin against it, and then just place your other foot in front of you. So your bum's going to be against that back foot, other foot in front of you, and hands down on the ground. The next step up, if you're not feeling a stretch, is to bring your chest up and put your hands on your hips. If you're again not feeling that stretch, then move your front foot forward and then move your hips off of your foot and just hold. This is one of the best stretches that I absolutely love. So make sure you're doing it on both legs. So bring one knee by the wall, shin against the wall, and then the other leg forward in front of you. This is step number 1, just holding with our hands down on the ground. And again, if you're not feeling it, chest up, hands on your hips. You can even grab onto something if you're not feeling super stable. And then that last step was to take a bigger step forward, move your hips forward away from your foot, and just hold. Next, we're going to work on stretching our hamstrings and our calves. So you're going to face your feet in one direction, more than shoulder width apart, and then reach down for the ground. If you can't touch your hands on the ground, that's okay. Just set them on your shins and hold. Next, you're going to center to the middle, face your feet forward, and relax your upper body, especially your neck. I tend to get really tense in my neck, so I like to relax it, roll it side to side, do whatever to help me relax. Then if you're feeling a deep stretch in your hamstrings, you can bend your legs and re-straighten to help relax those muscles. Then you're going to turn to the other side, feet facing that direction, and have your hands down or on your shins again. Now your focus is to actually square your hips. What square your hips means is pressing that back hip forward. So the leg that's back, that corresponding hip is pressing forward and squaring. Then here you're going to do a pike stretch with a straight back. Think about lengthening your spine and just leaning forward. There should be no curve in your back here. You're going to work it with both pointed and flexed feet. Then you're going to roll forward and reach for your toes, and also stretch with pointed toes and flexed feet. As you're doing this, make sure you're breathing, and every single time you exhale, try and go deeper into your stretch. Again, making sure you're stretching pointed and flexed because it stretches different parts of that calf and hamstring. Next, we are going to work on our ankle flexibility. So you're going to lay down on your back and lift one leg up, and all you're going to do is point your foot as hard as you can and flex your foot as hard as you can. You'll just go in between those two, really exaggerating the movement. Then you're going to work on circles, making sure you're making complete circles and going in both directions. Then you're going to switch your feet, doing the same thing, flexing as hard as you can and pointing as hard as you can. We're really trying to make sure you have a natural hard point and a natural hard flex. Then here, when you do circles, imagine it as an actual circle you are drawing. No squares, no triangles. You got to hit every part of that circle. Then we're going to move on to low squats with your feet shoulder width apart. Your goal is actually to get your bum to touch the bottom part of your ankles. Now what you don't want to do is bring your knees inwards as you're doing this, or bring them too far outwards. Both of those are very bad for your knees. You want to make sure your knees are straight over your toes. You're going as low down as you can and keeping your heels on the ground.
Thanks for watching. If you like this content, please like and subscribe.